What is the idea of leaving our newborn baby with his sister every day? My husband called me while he was at work. I couldn't help but be surprised at the anger in my usually mild-mannered husband's voice. I quickly clarified the situation to clear up the misunderstanding. Our daughter sleeps at home, I said. The husband raised his voice in surprise. One question led to another, and we were both left perplexed. I will ask my daughter-in-law for the truth, I decided. I contacted my sister-in-law, and the shocking truth was revealed to me. My name is Linda. I have been married for 3 years to my husband Bob, who is 1 year older than me. We recently had our first child. Our daughter's name is Hannah. Hannah is so adorable, but it's not easy for me as a first-time mom. Since my parents live far away, I didn't have the opportunity to come home for the birth. So, ever since I was discharged from the maternity hospital, I have been like a one-woman show during the day. It is not an exaggeration to say that I managed to pull through thanks to Bob, who is very attentive to Hannah. Even when he's tired at work, he never complains, whether it's trouble falling asleep or Hannah crying in the middle of the night. I think the fact that Bob is such a gentle man allows me to do Hannah's training almost stress-free. I was genuinely grateful for his presence, so the unexpected call took me by surprise, and especially the anger in his voice. "Linda, I just got a call from my mom. What the hell is going on?" Bob exclaimed. "Eh? Your mom? What do you mean? What's the idea of leaving a newborn with Marissa every day?" "Mom has a bad back, and apparently Marissa takes care of everything herself," Bob continued, his voice full of surprise. I couldn't keep up with my sister-in-law's sudden appearance at the word newborn. Marissa is my sister-in-law, Bob's sister. She lives about a 15-minute walk from her parents' house where she lives with them. She has a flexible schedule because she works from home and takes care of her mother, I explained. My husband continued his criticism. "How can you just leave a baby who is only 3 weeks old? I'd be too worried to do that. Marissa never cared about the baby. I realize you're tired after giving birth, but at least consult me before leaving her with Marissa." I could hear the misery in his voice. I could tell from his English shout that the situation was not an easy one. "Wait, I have no idea what you're talking about. Marissa is caring for a newborn? Why did your mother call you? Why would I consult with you? What do you mean, why? You've been leaving Hannah with Marissa, haven't you? For almost a fortnight now. Marissa didn't complain because she didn't want to ruin things with you, but Mom couldn't stand it and called me," Bob explained. I was shocked at Bob's words. It was a story I had no memory of, because my daughter is right in front of me. I had a lot of questions, but I felt it was more important to clear up the misunderstanding first. So I responded immediately, "Huh? Our daughter's sleeping at home. She's right in front of me now." Bob's voice, which had been filled with surprise until a moment ago, raised in astonishment again. "What do you mean? I'm as baffled as you are. In fact, I was told it's best not to take newborns out too much, so I haven't really been anywhere besides medical checkups. So I haven't even been to your family home, and I haven't seen Marissa since she came to visit us after the birth." "Huh? Then whose baby is Marissa looking after?" I wondered aloud. I wish I knew. "Why would Marissa lie about taking care of my baby?" Bob questioned. One question just seemed to lead to another, as we both scratched our heads. The chime announcing the end of the lunch break rang over the phone. When I heard the chime, I made a decision. I'm going to reach out to Marissa. I want to understand why she might lie. If she's mistaken and thinks she's taking care of Hannah, that's a real problem. "I'll call Mom too," I said. Bob paused before apologizing. "Sorry for doubting you. I was just so worried about Hannah." "It's okay. You worried for Hannah, right? Besides, when I told you she's right here, you didn't question it. You believed me," I reassured him. After ending the call, I immediately dialed my sister-in-law's number. "Marissa, it's been a while. Do you have a minute? There's something I want to ask," I said. "Linda, I have something to say too," Marissa replied. "Bob and Marissa are close in age. That's why Marissa, despite being my sister-in-law, is the same age as me. Marissa and I have always gotten along well since I was dating Bob. We even used to go out together. So I couldn't help but wonder why she hadn't mentioned anything about the situation to me. I couldn't understand why she would lie like that." "Well, This is a good time, Marissa continued. I just heard from Bob. Marissa, what do you mean you're looking after Hannah? I've never left Hannah with anyone, I interrupted. Huh? Following Marissa's surprise, I could hear a baby crying. Apparently, she is indeed caring for a baby. Listening to Marissa's voice, I had a hunch Marissa wasn't lying. She truly believed she was caring for Hannah. To clear up Marissa's misunderstanding, I started to explain the situation. Hannah's right here with me, sleeping soundly. I really don't understand what's going on. But how did you end up with a baby, Marissa? And why did you think the baby was Hannah? Marissa responded to my question. Last week, Dad just dropped a baby off with me. He said Linda seems to be having a tough time on her own, so you should help her with her baby. I couldn't help but raise my voice at this astonishing revelation. Then, Marissa drops another bombshell. Yeah, I was so scared because I've never cared for a baby. I hadn't heard anything from you, Linda. And when I thought about calling you, Dad said, if you call Linda, she'll just get worked up. Don't you have any consideration for your sister-in-law? I also have a job to do, even when I'm home. It seemed that all of this started with my father-in-law's lie, but it wasn't clear who the child my sister-in-law was caring for was. I thought asking my father-in-law would clear things up. So I asked Marissa if he was home. However, it seems he's out right now. Lately, he comes back home in the late evening, picks up the child she's been looking after, saying he's going to return her to Linda, and then leaves again. And apparently, he comes back in about 20 to 30 minutes. Frustrated that my father-in-law was using me and my daughter to lie, I felt like confronting him directly. I get it. I'll need to talk with Bob, but we might come over tonight, I said, and hung up the phone. I emailed my husband about what I heard from his sister. I think it's better to ask Dad directly, was the reply. So when Bob got home, we headed over to my in-laws. On the way, Bob shared the conversation he had with his mother. Mom was pretty upset, too, to find out that the child she thought was her grandchild wasn't. That's a big shock, ain't it? I didn't think Hannah's first meeting with everyone would be like this. It's complicated, Bob explained. His mother had a bad back, so she hasn't met our daughter yet. I was hoping to introduce Hannah as soon as she was ready to go out after a month, but instead, I'm upset that we're having to introduce her during such a mess, Bob added. When we arrived at my in-laws, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were there, both looking bewildered as we came in. Marissa opened her mouth. Bob, Linda, Dad said he was going to return the child we've been looking after, but he hasn't come back yet. I understand, Mom. Despite the circumstances, this is our daughter, Hannah. Bob introduced her daughter, and I moved Hannah closer to my mother-in-law. Seeing Hannah, my mother-in-law's face softened. She's adorable. She looks just like Bob when he was born. I'm so glad to finally meet her, and Linda, you've done so well. I'm sorry you've been caught up in all this, my mother-in-law said. It's okay. I'm just as confused as everyone else, I replied. Marissa continued. I don't understand it either. Who is this child that has been looking after? I don't know why he's lying, and I've been working so hard thinking that child was Hannah. He should consider how I feel, too. Like me, Marissa seems frustrated with her father-in-law. Trying to lighten the mood, Bob interjected. Before that, Marissa, you've met Hannah. You should have noticed it's a different baby. Marissa hastily began to defend herself. Well, don't all babies look similar? I thought I felt something odd, but I thought maybe their faces change over a few days. That's when her father-in-law came back. I'm back. Wait, why are Bob and Linda here from our father-in-laws? Panic. It was clear this whole thing was his lie. The rest of us seemed to agree, and we all gave him hard stares, unable to stand the tension. Our father-in-law started to stumble over his words. Oh, Linda, it's been a while. What brings you here? Did you leave something here, Marissa? What are you doing? I told you to check for forgotten items. I was furious at our father-in-law for using me and my daughter's names to lie and then blaming Marissa. I subconsciously gripped my daughter tighter. Both my husband and my sister-in-law seemed to feel the same way, their fists shaking with tension. The first to speak was me. Dad, are you seriously saying that? Don't you think it's a bit too shoddy even for you? What do you mean? My father-in-law was taken aback by the anger in my voice. That's when my husband and sister-in-law joined in. Dad, explain yourself. Linda has never babysat Hannah. Why would you lie like that? There must be a reason for someone to babysit a stranger's newborn, right? That's right. You tricked me into babysitting. Who is that child? I'm scared, even if it's my brother's child, let alone a stranger's. I won't do it again. Do you have any idea how much this has set back my work? With the two of them firing off at high speed, our father-in-law was at a loss for words, while the three of us were glaring at him, wanting to know the truth. My mother-in-law was different. She turned pale, muttering, "No way. You're not still involved with her?" At my mother-in-law's words, my husband, sister-in-law, and I were stunned. My father-in-law was breaking out in a cold sweat. What? What do you mean? Even though he was trying to play dumb, my usually gentle husband had had enough. Dad, cut the crap. You've been playing dumb this whole time. You think you can get away with this? We know you've been lying about everything. Just tell the truth. Wait, Bob, calm down. Dad, you've been using Linda and Hannah to cover up your lies, and you owe Marissa an apology. Taking care of a newborn is a big responsibility, even if it's your own child. Imagine how stressful it must have been for Marissa, who's never even raised a child before. Once he started, my husband couldn't stop. Despite everything our father-in-law was saying, my husband didn't let up. Perhaps realizing he couldn't avoid it any longer, my father-in-law said softly, and then he confessed to the unbelievable truth. That child is mine. At her father-in-law's words, my husband lost all of his momentum, his mouth hanging open in shock. Marissa and I were also stunned into silence. The one who broke the silence was my mother-in-law. Her voice was trembling and her eyes were wet. "I knew it. You're still involved with her. I was a fool to forgive you back then." "Back then?" my husband asked, confused. In response to his question, my father-in-law's face turned even paler. Ignoring him, my mother-in-law started explaining he had an affair. It was around the time you two were getting married, so about 3 years ago. He promised me he would never do it again, so I forgave him. But now, that's why I thought Hannah looked a bit like Bob. She's his blood, after all. I thought she was my real grandchild. Unable to hold back any longer, my mother-in-law started to cry. Seeing her like this, I could feel my anger towards my father-in-law rising. My husband regained his momentum and started to lash out at our father-in-law. "You're the worst, Dad. You didn't just lie to us. You betrayed Mom twice. How could you do such a thing? I can't believe that a person like you is our father." Bob's shout was followed by Marissa. "What do you mean by my child? Are you kidding me? You had a child with your mistress and left it with me? I can't believe it. How can you calmly do such a thing? It's too disgusting. I don't want to see your face ever again." Despite the harsh words from his own children, father-in-law just chuckled and said, "Calm down. There's nothing we can do about what's already happened. The mistress didn't want to marry me or anything like that. She just didn't have any money, so she had to work. In the meantime, I had to take care of the child." I couldn't bear the sight of my father-in-law laughing and saying these words. "Stop it, you worthless man. What you did isn't a laughing matter. A person has been born. Do you understand the gravity of that at your age?" When I, who had been silent all along, raised my voice, my father-in-law seemed to lose his footing and fell on his rear end right there. But no one offered to help. Instead, Marissa started hurling insults. "You shitty old man. You're no longer our father. I can't stand you physically. I don't want to see your face ever again." Even when confronted by their words, my father-in-law still tried to brush it off, saying, "Don't say things like that." Seeing this, my mouth tensed dramatically and I glared at my father-in-law. "I don't have the confidence to keep up with someone like you anymore. Let's get divorced." "Wait, didn't you forgive me last time?" My father-in-law's artificial smile faded and his face sagged with wrinkles. The careless demeanor from earlier disappeared, and he suddenly became serious. "Sure, I made a mistake by cheating, but if letting off steam outside makes our home peaceful, isn't that a good thing? Besides, how are you going to survive without me? You've always been a housewife. You probably don't have any money, right?" As my father-in-law clung to my mother-in-law's feet and said this, I watched him with cold eyes. When I glanced over, my husband and sister-in-law were also giving my father-in-law the same look. Everyone in the room was fed up with my father-in-law. My sister-in-law shouted out with anger, I'll take care of Mom, so we'll be fine without you. How are you planning to live? You've always relied on Mom for everything from meals to laundry. Are you sure you'll be okay on your own now? Marissa's words clearly upset my father-in-law. He looked at my mother-in-law with pleading eyes. You wouldn't abandon me, would you? We've been together for decades. You can't imagine life without me, can you? However, my father-in-law's hopes were quickly dashed. My mother-in-law shook off his arm that was clinging to her leg. Stop joking. How much do you need to belittle people to be satisfied? Who do you think wants to be with a cheater? I'm going to divorce you right now. If you like her so much, why don't you go be with your mistress? What? Wait, let's talk. We can work it out. That woman was just a fling. The only one I love is you. My father-in-law, clinging to my mother-in-law, was once again the target of my sister-in-law's angry voice. Enough! Talking to someone who has no intention of reflecting on their actions is pointless. We're leaving this place soon. Of course, Mom is coming with us until we're gone. Dad, you better not come home. I never want to see your face again. Now scram! With that, Marissa tried to forcefully usher my father-in-law outside. Even then, my father-in-law didn't budge, so ultimately, Bob had to physically drag him out. Please wait. Give me another chance, just one more. My father-in-law was shouting this until the end, but no one paid any attention. Afterwards, as Marissa had predicted, my father-in-law's life became a mess. Unable to do even basic chores, unable to endure living in his increasingly cluttered and dirty house, he tried to rely on his mistress. But it seemed she turned him away at the door. The mistress apparently had no intention of marrying my father-in-law either. Since there was no one left to look after the children, the mistress became unable to go to work, and with no income, she started demanding that my father-in-law compensate for the alimony. Currently, they are even going to court to dispute matters such as child support. Meanwhile, my sister-in-law and mother-in-law moved to an apartment not far from our house. As more than a month has passed since the birth, I've started visiting them with Hannah more frequently. I've continued my friendly relationship with Marissa as if nothing has changed, and my relationship with my mother-in-law is also good. From now on, I plan to do my best to raise my daughter with the help of my husband, my sister-in-law, and my mother-in-law.